It's just as well that he's got a fun nickname, right? So whenever something like this happens, we can go, Rassie's being Rassie again, rather than Johan did it again. Like, it sounds very different, doesn't it? It sounds almost like his teacher's telling him off rather than like, oh, that rapscallion Rassie.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a Springbok test series without Rassie doing some japes of some description.
I think that's the word for it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it's japes.
Yeah.
I think at this point, right, and we'll get into the specifics in a moment, but Rassie Erasmus has built up such a dominant and brilliant Springbok side that he can essentially just do whatever he likes, and he's now got this vehicle to, on the world stage, do mischief.
Yeah.
And he is fundamentally, like, Rassie is, alongside Eddie Jones, rugby's greatest shitposter.
He is.
And yet, he has been born into the body of a world-class coach. And so, like, Eddie and Rassie are both constantly having to try and, like, get this out their system, right? And, like, I think for anyone else, they'd make a meme. For Rassie, he's got to come up with two ingenious but bizarre tactics that people are now saying anything from, this is genius, we love Rassie, to this is disgrace, let's end rugby union right now.
It's so weird, isn't it? I kind of resent Rassie for being a genius in what he does, because there's a lot of things that he's done which, let's say, will rub certain people up the wrong way, myself included.
Yeah.
However, it's undeniable that he is one of the most creative and innovative thinkers that the game has ever seen. And he constantly thinks of new ways to give it to a big lad and power through people.
Yeah.
Like, look
Make
incredible.
it brand new.
Yeah. So we today, instead of talking about the entire at-large game of South Africa versus Italy, broadly because the narrative of that was South Africa good, Italy bad, right?
Yeah.
Instead,
Italy had some good moments, but broadly really underperformed.
Yeah.
South Africa were themselves.
Yeah. So instead, we're going to talk about those two isolated moments.
Yeah.
And you probably know what they are, but we're going to talk through them anyway. I think the first one that we should touch upon should be the first kickoff.
The first thing that happened in the game, right? So I sort of missed this because I was like still getting to my seat after, you know, like everything, getting a drink and everything.
Me too.
And I kind of sat down and the commentators were going, oh, and that was clearly deliberate. And then like they cut up to a shot of Rassie like grinning again, like, the plan is in place. I was like, wait, what? So I actually went and like rewound it and I'd look again. It was like, they didn't. So for those who haven't seen it, we'll put it on the screen now, right? From the kickoff, they took the kickoff deliberately, like less than a yard?
It was about
a matter of inches.
3 or 4 meters
that
they sent it.
Deliberately, and Esterhazen comes in and regathers it so that...
From a deliberately offside
position.
Yeah.
So that it can't be played, right? The idea being that it gives you a scrum on the halfway mark to start the game. And South Africa, famously, enjoy scrummaging.
Important to state that a lot of people are saying, why isn't this a penalty? And there are aspects to this that we'll come on to. However, the facts are, for some reason, offside from a kickoff in front of the kicker is only a scrum offence in rugby as things stand. I don't really know why that's the case. It's one of those things that a lot of referees, especially at lower levels, kind of don't realise. But for some reason, at the highest level of 15-a-side rugby, in sevens it's a free kick, whereas in 15-a-side rugby, it's just a scrum rather than a penalty.
It's terms of a false kickoff, right? And so if kickoff goes out in the full, goes dead, doesn't go 10, whatever, then you get the option to re-kick, you get a scrum halfway.
Yeah.
And those are your options. Or you can take a line out and halfway, potentially. So maybe that's an option. I don't know, I've never seen it.
I would assume that it's just a scrum.
Yeah. I have seen it penalised at professional level, though.
Yeah. But technically, the law is that it is just a scrum.
Yeah.
Now, as we go into this, chances are, so the Springboks have on their coaching panel Jaco Piper, who is an extremely experienced referee. He's refereed at World Cup quarterfinal standards, so he's one of the most well-renowned referees of the last sort of 10, 15 years. Brilliant ref in his day. So he's on their board, and it's something that's becoming increasingly popular in international rugby. You know, that France have Jérôme Garcès, who is one of the greatest referees of all time in their coaching team.
Who really started this, hiring Garcès.
And it's perfect for Rassie to have this, to go, brilliant, how can we bend, not break, but bend the laws and exploit loopholes? And he's gone, well, what I can do is I can phone up Andy Brace in the week and say, hi, we're going to do this thing where we stand in front of the player at the kickoff and kick it 3 meters to him to form a scrum. Is that all right?
However, I doubt they did that because I think it relied on Andrew Brace not having too much time to think about it. Because if you do stop and think about it, right, there is the other law that comes into question, which is ungentlemanly conduct, which is that anyone deliberately bending or going against the values or spirit of the game, which is wanky as anything, but anyone that does anything deliberately against the values and ideals and core of the game, the fundamentals of the game, you can give a penalty or even right up to a red card.
There is
so, like,
a law.
You can fundamentally, if you want to go, you're being too much of a cunt, mate, you can just give a straight red card.
Yeah.
Like, that is within the rule book if the referee feels it.
Indeed, Andrew Brace did do that at one point in the game. Anyway, but there is something that says in the law book that says if you deliberately break any laws, that is a penalisable offence. Like within the referee's
it comes
remit.
under that, right? So like Brace had the remit if he wanted to penalise this.
Yeah.
I think they're relying on the fact that he would see it happen and go, oh, the automatic process, that is a scrum and halfway or a re-kick if Italy want that.
So let's talk about 2023 World Cup against France. Damien Villens catches the ball, calls for the mark, and takes the scrum straight off it. South Africa get a penalty from the scrum. So they did that as a means of upgrading their free kick to a penalty. So they get the throw in downfield. In a World Cup quarter-final, margins are tight as.
They also did it though. Rassie was asked in the press conference afterwards about it, and he said, and I remember his words, right? His words were, the scrum is a part of the game that we enjoy, and we knew from when teams play France, there are very few scrums, so we wanted more scrums, and we came up with ways to artificially add more scrums into the game. And I wonder if there's something came up in advance years ago. I kind of doubt it because I think we would have seen it by now, if it was. But there was a real it's a part of the game they enjoy, right? Like they wanted scrums. In that case, they wanted more physicality, wanted to challenge France physically and set a marker down, have the French forwards thinking we can't.
And tire them out as well.
Yeah.
And slow the game down as well when France had momentum. That's something else that Rassie's pointed to. In that case, South Africa had the ball, whereas in this case, they surrendered possession to Italy.
Yeah.
With them outlawing taking a scrum off a free kick, that's one that I don't really like, because I think, no, that's a valid thing, taking a scrum from a mark.
I understand the rationale of doing it to speed the game up a bit,
Sure.
right? However, I do think you should have the option.
I think scrum free kicks, fair enough.
I always stand by this, that you shouldn't be changing the laws to change anything that is actually the job of a defence coach, an attack coach, a scrum coach, right? And fundamentally, right, if you want to depower the scrum or depower the South African scrum, it is the job of the opposition props and scrum coach to solve that problem, not of the
or defence coach.
Yeah. And so I understand the angle. If it was just you can't take a free kick from a scrum offence, fine with that, right? If that's the case.
As much as I think a lot of Springbok fans completely over-egg the whole, whenever they do something well, they go, oh, World Rugby are going to outlaw this now. I think that's a really bollocks argument, but I think in that case they kind of had a point.
I think it was a coincidence, right? I think it was a coincidence. They wanted to do things to speed the game up, and one of them happened to be depowering the scrum. And so the two came alongside.
Agreed. However, with this one, this is a much greyer area.
This is.
If this was the Olympics, right, there is a possibility that South Africa could have got kicked out of it, Because do you remember Olympics, I want to say it was 2012 Olympics, there was a badminton game, or it might have been a squash game, where there were two players who would have been seeded against the best in the world in a quarter-final, right? And they wanted to instead play for the silver medal or a bronze medal. So instead they get seeded in the other part. Neither of them wanted to win the game, so both of them just hit the ball against the floor. Both players got kicked out of the Olympics because they said, well, they're not trying to win the game. The Olympic Committee just said that it's against the spirit of the Olympics, because you want to. It's a competition. It's about competitive spirit. It's about always trying, in every action you make, trying to defeat your opposition.
This is the problem I have with it. That I fundamentally I am really torn on this.
It's a really good debate. It's a really good debate.
This is why it's interesting. Why we want to do a video on it rather than I don't think you can sum it up in a tweet. Right?
You can't.
I don't think you can just do a tweet or even a blue sky post for 40 characters longer. You can't do those just going oh, this is it. Because it's so nuanced and so meaty and interesting.
Yeah.
Because fundamentally, right, it is a genius, really smart way of, if you want more scrums in the game, then give the opposition scrums, right? If you deliberately knock it on, there is a deliberate knock-on rule that is enshrined in the laws of the game very purposefully, that means that referees will know to go, you've deliberately knocked that on. We don't want to do that, right?
Yeah.
And also, you want to be doing it in advantageous positions for yourself, so whatever else. But if you want to make a statement early on, you also get Italy thinking. You get Italy kind of in their head of going oh God, they really want to scrum. They're really confident in this. As it was, the scrum ended up in a free kick to Italy, so it kind of backfired on them.
Yeah.
But you do have that element, and I like it from that angle. I like that Rassie's looked at the laws of the game and gone, what can I do laterally in terms of like my thought process to try and come up with something.
I think what that does
different.
psychologically to the Italian props
Exactly.
is you go, oh my God, they rate us so little that they're willing to give us the ball just so they can scrum against us and demolish us.
Yeah. And
It's
I think
so crazy.
that's his angle. I love that. From that point of view, I love it.
It's brilliant.
Like, it's great.
It's genius.
And it's such a smart bit of trying to get on top of the opposite number. I get that he couldn't do this against like New Zealand or France or someone because they physically could take them on.
Yeah.
It had to be someone where they could get in there.
And given they played Italy last week and demolished them at scrum time.
Yeah. And this is like a weakened Italy team.
Yeah.
And on that front, I really like it. I wonder if he has been sitting on it but waiting for a game where they are big enough favourites in the scrum, but it's not like they're playing Namibia or Uruguay or whoever, or Georgia next week, and it becomes like disrespectful to the point, right? Like if they were another tier 1 nation, but South Africa should beat them comfortably, they should have a nation in the scrum.
How funny would it be if Georgia did this on the first kickoff of next
That
week's
would be
game?
hysterical.
That would be hilarious.
But Richard Cockles is the whole thing he'd do.
Yeah.
Like it's a sort of bullshit Richard Cockles.
Mind
but,
games
like,
back to the box. And then they get demolished in a scrum. But
Yeah,
either way.
But that's fine. But the other angle on this, right? Like, and I think the genius Rassie angle is not to be underestimated. But also, the point in rugby is to compete and try and win the game. And surrendering possession, surrendering the ball, surrendering territory as well, like, is very much against the point in the game.
Yeah.
Like, the scrum exists, the ruck exists, all of the rules in the game exist. The rulebook is so long because every part of rugby is supposed to be contestable. Like, every single element of the game, you have the chance to win the ball back in that moment, to get on top, to go from attack to defence in a second, right?
Yeah.
Everything is built around that even contest, and surrendering that is an interesting and different thing.
Even when someone carries the ball, you're allowed to rip it off them.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Like, even when you kick the ball, you're allowed to win it back.
As someone's grounded the ball, you can go in under and try and like hold them up. Like every area, this is the case, right? There is always a contest for possession.
Yeah.
And yet there is something in the fact that like it also, you can make the argument, does it go against the Springbok ideal, right? Of, yes, you always back yourself and you always back your physicality, but could you say that giving the opposition the ball and giving them a scrum deliberately goes against that Springbok idea of being incredibly competitive at all times and really competing and fighting for everything?
Yeah, that's a really interesting argument. As you say, in the current laws of the game, right, it's fine, it's fair enough, right? And then, not to sound like Matt Williams, right, but there is kind of a moral side to this. And at the moment, the Springboks have no obligation to morally go with what is correct. They can bend the laws as much as they want, especially when, as I say, they have a former referee in their coaching box, right? I do think in this case, World Rugby have a case for changing the laws entirely.
I don't think they'll change their laws. I think they will just tell referees in future this comes under ungentlemanly conduct.
I reckon what they could do about this, so once again, if somebody's in front of the kicker at kick-off, you could just say they're offside and penalise them for that.
Yeah.
That, I do think that that's kind of a dumb law that's only a scrum. As you say, it's a false kick-off, but you could just say that's offside. The other thing is, so there is a law around when you've signalled to go for goal, that you have to make an honest attempt at getting it. So it was many, many years ago, there was an example where somebody signalled for goal, whole opposition goes to stand under the sticks to strategise or whatever, kicker goes for a cross-field kick, winger catches it,
It
puts
happened
it
in
down.
the championship this season, just gone.
Yeah.
And the referee allowed the try.
Yeah.
Even though he just did a little chip, like...
You have to make an honest attempt to shoot at goal rather than going for a cross-field kick or anything like that. I do think there is a possibility they could introduce an interpretation similar of you have to make an honest attempt to make a proper kick-off.
Yeah.
So in the field of play, more than 10 metres from the halfway line for it to bounce.
Yeah. I think there's a good chance that happens. As I say, whether that happens formally or they just tell referees to keep an eye out
There's
for
an
this and be
interpretation.
penalised if it happens again. I don't think Rassie will try again, at least for a little while. Or he'll try it immediately. He would have tried it again in the same game, I think, if he was going to do it again. Like the sort of the thing he does, he'll go again. Then he'll just go leave it for a while, and he'll pull the toy out the drawer again.
Yeah,
once
in the World Cup or something,
But the other one is an interesting one. The other innovation Rassie brought out, which I say innovation, right? This has happened before.
It has.
This is not brand new.
It's happened, but not quite as effectively.
Yeah.
So the first time I ever saw this was the women's Barbarians in 2019 ran this against Wales. And they did it to piss about. They did it as a laugh because it looks funny and it made for great telly, which is what the barbars are all about, right? It is about doing entertaining weird shit on a rugby pitch. And yeah, so the Springboks here do it deliberately. So they crash in a phase here and then they set up off a line out, and then they set up a lifting pod on the blind side to just go straight back to them.
Of the same jumping pod that lifted and jumped a second earlier.
Yeah, so they just do double the amount of work that they do previously. And they get Grant Williams to throw in, like the hooker, kind of double top, up high to the second row who is uncontested, and they form a wall off the back of that.
Yeah, and it's incredibly effective because they end up now against some backs as well as the forwards. They're not expecting them all. It just delays them all set up by a second. South Africa get them into position. It's a really well-worked drill. Like, it's really smart. They win a penalty off it. It actually opens us up enough because it draws enough bodies and they go and score anyway a second later. So it's a really, really smart move. I have no issue with this one.
I think it's brilliant.
And I think anyone complaining about that, I haven't seen anyone actually complaining about this. I've seen people saying like, oh God, I can't believe
I have seen people complain about this,
really. Okay. I don't understand any of those complaints. This is something very much within the rules. It makes total sense. If you are to outlaw lifting pods outside the lineouts, one, it becomes like hard to know where it begins and where it ends. Like, if you deliberately overthrow a lineout beyond the 15, do you call that now?
Yeah, that would be not allowed.
Jumping to regather a kickoff, does that become no longer allowed? I think this is it's a really, really smart bit of rugby. I think, again, that would be the lawmakers stepping on the toes of coaches whose job it should be to go, South Africa might do this. We've got to work out a way to sack that immediately and bring that to ground straight away, right? And not allow them to make it a maul.
100%. I completely agree with you. So here's a little bit of a kind of humble brag that I need to make here. So I alluded to this on Twitter, right? But I have a note in my phone that we've collaborated on for a number of years.
For about 10 years we've been working on this.
Around, if we ever got the opportunity to spend one day as the Barbarians coach.
Or 1 week. Or a month. We're open. We're available.
We will do it free of charge.
If you're the Barbarians, we will do it for...
Well, not free of charge.
Let's not. We can negotiate price later.
We'll do it anyway.
We'll do it. We're available. Right? We're very available.
And one of the first things on there, right, was I had the thought of, well, lifting pods are a thing that you can use universally in rugby. And so one of the first things that I've written in that note on my phone, right, is crossfield kick to a lifting pod.
Yeah.
And this morning I saw Paul Williams tweeting saying like, oh my God, you could do this off a cross kick.
Yeah.
Because off a lifting pod from a crossfield kick, right, it gives you so many advantages.
Yeah.
That you can rise above the opposition player and you can put a little bit more on the crossfield kick. You could have more numbers over there. And it stretches the defence quite a lot as well because they're going, oh shit, there's 3 people over here. You could potentially start a maul against a winger or a fullback or somebody lighter, weaker, and you can go against them there. You can bake support runners into it.
Think about South Africa using Etzebeth against BLBRA in the World Cup, right? Using him as a jumper opposite him.
Imagine he's got Ox underneath him.
Exactly, and then can form a maul off the back of it.
Yeah.
Like, genuinely, they can maul him 50 metres, right, before a forward can get across from the other side of the pitch.
Yeah.
Like, it opens up so many possibilities. I do actually know that since we talked about that, that has been suggested at a Premiership club and they turned it down. The coaches turned it down.
Really?
Yeah. Real hardcore the channel can work out how I'd know this and who it would be.
Yeah.
But it's not them, it's the other one.
So there's two points to this. One, if you're the Barbarians, hit us up. We will do it. We've got more ideas that are better than that as well. Two, it's clearly like a really good strategy to use this, and it's really innovative. And they've done it right next to the breakdown to form a maul against unaware forwards. So the question then becomes, so I saw this tweet from Nigel Owens, who basically said this is a problem because it's undefendable. And I get where he's coming from, because he states that you can't tackle the man in the air, correct? You can't. Obviously, the South Africans probably can't carry him all the way to the try line, so... What
you have to do to defend it is teach your 12 to sack them all.
That's the part of it as well, yeah, because it's incredibly hard to sack them all because they are very close to pre-engaging. They are not pre-engaging, but they are coming as close to it because they get to pre-plan it. The opposition don't know it's coming. So, for me, I think that the main way of doing this is when Grant Williams chucks the ball in the air, or the scrum half chucks the ball in the air, from that point, there's no offside line.
Yeah.
Unlike on a line out. So you could do this. Here's a really good clip that Josh Turnbull doing this against Perpignan 10 years ago.
Mate, what a try this leads to.
Yeah, they threw it beyond the 15, and Turnbull, the 7 for the Scarlets here in red, comes round the side and just pinches the ball off
Yeah,
them.
he essentially comes in the hooker, pretends he's that player.
Yeah, exactly, and pinches the ball from them. The thing is, the Springboks will be incredibly tight on Etzebeth or whoever they're chucking in the air here to try and stop this from happening. And also, the other part of it is the opposition will need to know this is coming. So they will need to have done their analysis and they will need to identify a lifting pod.
One, he's done it now, right? Oppositions in the foreseeable future will prep for this, so you have that in mind. One is you teach your centres to sack, or you teach a back rower to sack, just in case to bring it down immediately, because they can't do anything about that if you do it quickly enough, you time it right. And also, like, you see them get in a position to lift, you know you get there and you get set for it. Like, you get more chance to do that you do off a normal line-out, where you're trying to compete and you've got to close the gap and everything. You don't have to close the gap, there's no gap you have to maintain. You also then get, as I said, the chance to work around and get onto the far side, getting behind them. So that's very much like an option for you.
And that's the thing, because it could be classified as obstruction if they don't let you near that.
Yeah.
And especially if you swarm around them. That's it. On the second time the Springboks tried this, there is a case that Danilo Fischetti should have just gone on the outside of Ox and gone and just claimed obstruction.
Yeah.
Because we're now seeing a lot of tries disallowed from line-out mauls for players stepping in front and obstructing someone from the ball carrier. It doesn't make that much difference, but refs are hot on this at the moment. And as I say, part of me thinks that Fischetti should have just chucked his arms in the air and gone, Ox is blocking me from getting to Etzebeth, because it's open play.
Yeah.
So when it's open play, there has to be, much like we were saying earlier, a fair competition for a defender to get to a ball carrier.
Yeah.
And obviously, because they've not prepared for this before, this hasn't happened before.
Yeah.
There's no protocol for what you do when someone just lifts a player in the air at ruck time. That they weren't to know this, but I do think there are ways where you can try and milk a penalty out of this for obstruction.
I think it'll be a bit like the Fox, the infamous Italian strategy, where they really looked at what constitutes a ruck or what doesn't, and managed to, when playing England, work around that essentially so that they could basically stand offside all the time
and just
because
piss
they
off
wouldn't
Danny
allow it
Kerr
to
all
be,
day.
to be a ruck. And it was incredibly effective, and it really frustrated England. They couldn't work anything out.
And it made James Haskell ask Roman Platt what a ruck is, which is hilarious.
2 weeks later, everyone tried this. Italy tried it again a few times, but teams were used to it now. And then Sean O'Brien, who infamously, 2 days after this, said, like, I would have been caught out by that. I would have known exactly what to do. I know the laws inside out, mate. I know exactly what to do. Got caught offside 3 times against Wales for trying to do it when it wasn't the case. And got penalised 3 times for it. Like, we will see teams adapt to it. And also, teams will probably try this that can't do it, as well as the Springboks aren't drilled in the same way. So we'll probably see this, like, either it will grow and grow and grow, and this will grow into a thing, or it won't. And it will go away and it will disappear, and it'll be something the Springboks occasionally bring out of their repertoire, right? But the thing is, people keep talking about, World Rugby going to ban this? And I think the big thing is, they can't really.
I don't think they can.
I don't think they will.
I don't think they should. It's much like the move that South Africa used in 2019, where they set a maul on the blind side after a first phase carry, using just 10, 12 and 13 in the breakdown, with their whole pack on the blind side to set a maul. And England didn't know what to do, so they just collapsed it and gave away a penalty.
The next game of Tier 1 rugby played, international rugby played after that World Cup, right? Eddie Jones, the other great ship poster, ran that move with England, and they made an absolute hash of it. And they
taken Matt Proudfoot as his scrum coach as well, who was the South African scrum coach at that time.
And they made an absolute meal of it, and it was a disaster, right? Again, we won't see this become a widespread thing, and if we do, teams will learn.
South Africa tried it again in the World Cup final in 23, and it went horribly wrong because Adi Savia just knew it was coming and collapsed it. He found out how to do it.
This will happen again. Like, lawmakers shouldn't step in on what is a coach's job or a player's job, and I don't think they will. I think ultimately what we'll see is maybe the compromise of they call it as obstruction if you don't let them get into the ball, right?
Allow access in some description.
Exactly.
Because as I say, like, all areas of rugby should be competitive. The maul, the ruck, the line out, the scrum, the kickoff, even just the ball carry, the tackle, like, all of it is competitive, and that's what makes it great.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I think we've solved rugby there.
I think we have,
Do you think that they should allow Rassie Erasmus to come up with any move he wants beyond the laws of the game next week?
Look, I'm just not going to reveal anything more that's written on that note on our phone. Our phone and my phone.
We have one phone between us.
Yes, just because I don't want to give Rassie any more ideas.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think in that case, the one thing that remains to be said is Barbarians FC.
Yeah.
We're very available.
Hit us up, man.
We're unbelievably available. We're just
not as like head coaches, just like assistant attack coaches.
Yeah.
hit us the fuck up.
We'll be head coaches if we want.
Yeah, we could be.
Depends who the head coach is.
Won't
like,
be that good.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah.
we can get. Well, look,
I suppose you don't need to train, do you?
maybe
you
if
just
you're
go out on the
lining,
piss.
like, look, it's usually Robbie Deans.
Yeah.
Robbie Deans is usually Barbarian's coach, right? So presuming he's head coach, we can come in and be like, "Hey, we've got some ideas," and he'll be like, "Piss off, mate."
Yeah,
and
I don't think he'll enjoy it as much.
Yeah, so maybe it's the other way around. Maybe we'd be head coach and Robbie Deans can come and be an assistant.
Yeah.
And Andy Ellis can come out and he can play.
They got Will Greenwood in when he hadn't coached for a while.
He was coaching like amateurs, coaching like a junior team who lost every kickoff for 10 years, I believe.
You could get some YouTubers in. Why not?
Yeah.
It'd be funny.
Yeah.
It might go horribly wrong, but that's part of the entertainment.
Yeah, this is where they're going to get the egg chasers in instead.
And good luck to them if they.
And good luck to them. Good luck to them. But we are available.
We are available, and we asked first. See you there.